Hello guys, it's Mom Steph right here and welcome to another video lesson. So for this video, we will discuss quadratic functions. And sa video na to, the most essential learning competency na kailangan nating i-address is the competency that says the learner represents a quadratic function using table of values, graph, and equation. Now going back to our quadratic function earlier, which is g of x equals x squared plus 2x minus 1 with its table of values, let's have the graph of this quadratic function. So gamitin natin yung table of values niya to plot the points. And then, after that, malalaman natin kung ano ba talaga ang graph ng isang quadratic function. Okay, so our first ordered pair is -3, 2. So that is in our second quadrant, which is -3. So it's here. And then 2. Therefore, the point is right here. And then, we have -2, -1. So, -2, then we have -1. It's right here. -1. Next pair is -1. That will be this value. And -2. So, ito yun. And then we have 0, yung x, while y is -1. So, it's here. And then we have 1. So, 1 and 2. And then we have 2, 2, 7. So, we will not do any more 3 kasi wala na tayong space. So, if we're going to connect these points, then siya na. So, it's a curve. It's not a straight line, but it's a curve. I-balance lang natin yung curve natin. If we're going to have -4, then we will have here +7. Okay, and we will do the dots. So if you're wondering how did we get -4, 7, so I just added another value of x, which is -4, just to balance the parabola. So we have -4, and if we're going to substitute that to our g of x, that becomes g of -4 equals -4 squared plus 2 times -4 minus 1. And then we have 16 minus 8 minus 1. So we have g of -4. That will be equal to 16 minus 8 minus 1. That will be +7. So our value of y here is +7. So that's why we got this point right here. So now this is the clearer illustration of the graph of our quadratic function g of x equals x squared plus 2x minus 1. And as you can see, we have here a parabola which is opening upwards. So because it's opening straight up, nandito yung wider base niya. Or because it's opening straight up. So since its opening is upwards, then we have a minimum point in our parabola. So, minimum point, meaning yan yung pinaka mababang point in our parabola. And the rest of the points is going up infinitely. So, ano yon? sa parabola na to. That is our vertex, which is this point right here. Okay, and our vertex is denoted by V, or in general, it's VHK. That's in general. So it's still X and Y, but we just denote X and Y coordinate of the vertex as H and K. So in this case, our vertex is the point -1, -2. So that's our vertex. And that is our minimum point, the vertex -1, -2. And aside from the vertex is our minimum point if our parabola is opening upward, it is also the turning point of our parabola. Okay, bakit turning point? Because if we're going to trace our curve from left to right, so from here, okay, the values of, or the points of our parabola is going down, okay, and then once it reaches our vertex, it will start, or the points will start to go up. Okay? It starts going to the opposite direction. Okay? So aside from our vertex, we also have what we call our axis of symmetry. So our axis of symmetry is the line that passes through our vertex. Okay, so saan ba yung line na yun? Let me just clean this up. So the axis of symmetry is this line right here. Okay, is the line that passes through our vertex point. Okay, so I will just do a broken line. So this is now our axis of symmetry. So now if we are asked to give the equation of the axis, that is given by x equal to h. Okay, or x equal to the x coordinate of our vertex. Now in this case, since the x coordinate of our vertex is -1, it's right here. Therefore, the equation of the axis of symmetry is x equals -1. And then another property of a parabola class is its domain and its range. So in this case, so talking about domain, it's the set of all possible values of x. Okay, it's all the possible values of x that we can put in our function. So since observing our graph, we can assign any value of x. So as we assign any value of x, we can still get a value of y. That's why for quadratic functions, it is always the set of all real numbers as its domain. Because kahit anong value ng x ang pwede nating ilagay and we can still get a value of y. Now, talking about range, it's all the possible values of y. Now, given the graph, how are we going to tell the range of a quadratic function? So, since ito yung mga possible values ng y, let's observe our graph. Okay? So, since sinabi natin kanina na yung pinakamababang point or minimum point of our quadratic function is the vertex. So, since the vertex is given by -1 and -2, this is the x coordinate of our vertex and -2 is the y coordinate of our vertex. Since this is the minimum, okay, since that is our minimum point, meaning yan yung pinakamababang values or yan yung pinakamababang point in our parabola. So meaning, the y here, the value of y here is also our minimum value. Now looking at the graph, let's observe that if we have our x right here, okay, let's say this is -3, yung value ng y niya is nandito. Now, as we go higher to the values of our x, as we increase our values of x going to the right or going to the positive infinity, the values of y decreases, okay, going down. Now, at this point, -1, instead of going down further, hindi na siya bumaba. Okay? Hindi na bumaba yung value ng y natin. Instead, it goes up again. Okay? So, looking at this, if we're going to increase our x, pataas ng pataas yung values ng y. So, if our x is 1, it will be 2. Pag dito naman yung x natin, so nandun siya sa taas, yung y. Okay. So, ibig sabihin, yung values ng y natin is greater than negative 2. It will not go below negative 2 or less than negative 2. Kaya, in general, y is greater than or equal to k. Okay, saan ba si k? Yan yung y-coordinate ng vertex natin. Okay, it's 2. So that's why yung range ng quadratic function natin is y greater than or equal to negative 2 if our parabola is opening upwards. So that's how you determine the domain and range of our quadratic function given its graph. So now let's take a look at the graph of y equals negative x squared minus 2x plus 5. So using this graphing calculator, so ito yung clear picture or illustration ng parabola using this table of values. So its vertex, ulit lang natin. So its vertex is given by this point, which is the turning point. Okay? So that is given by negative 1 and 6. Okay. Now observe that our parabola is opening downwards. Okay. Bakit ito opening downwards? Okay. Yung kanina, positive kasi yung value ng A. Okay. If A is positive class, if A is positive, then it is upwards. Yan yung kailangan nating tingnan muna. So, if the value of coefficient A is positive, then our parabola will be opening upwards. But, if the value of our coefficient A is negative, then our parabola will be opening downwards. Kaya, our parabola here, or the graph of this quadratic function, is opening downwards because the value of A is negative 1. Okay. So now going back to the vertex, we have the vertex negative 1 and 6. How about its axis of symmetry? Okay? So ano yung equation ng axis of symmetry? The axis of symmetry is x equals h, or in this case, x equals negative 1. So yan yung h natin. Now how about its domain? Or all the possible values of x. So its domain is still all real numbers, all set of real numbers. Okay, it is always all set of real numbers for quadratic functions. How about the range? Okay, since our parabola is opening downwards, then our vertex is a maximum point. If we go from left to right, the y values are increasing or going up until it reach positive 6, then it goes down again. So, nagdi-decrease siya dito. So, the y values will not go higher than positive 6. Therefore, in this quadratic function, our range will be y less than or equal to k. So, ano yung k natin? It's the y-coordinate of our vertex, which is y less than or equal. So, that's how you determine the vertex, the axis of symmetry, the domain, and the range given the graph of our quadratic function. Next is this one. So, as you can see, our quadratic function is y equals 3x squared plus 1. So, since the value of a is positive 3, therefore, our parabola is opening upwards. Okay, opening upwards, as you can see. Now, let's determine its vertex. So, ano ba yung vertex ng ating parabola? That is given by the point here. 0, 1. Okay, that is 0, 1, which is the turning point of our parabola. And since it is opening upwards, it is also the minimum point. Okay, again, since it is opening upwards, take note, it is the minimum point. Ito yung pinakamababang point sa parabola natin. Next is the axis of symmetry. Okay, it's the axis of symmetry. So it's the vertical line that passes through our vertex, which is given by the equation x equals h, or in this case, x equals 0. This is the axis of symmetry. Okay, so saan yan galing? Dito. This is our h. How about our domain? The domain is all set of real numbers. Lahat ng real numbers pwede for quadratic function. And for our range, since our vertex is the minimum point, meaning siya yung pinakamababa, therefore, our y is greater than or equal to k, or y is greater than or equal to 1. Siya na yung pinakamababang value ng y, and all other y is going up. And so that's how we represent quadratic functions given the equation, the table of values, and the graphs. So that will be all for this video lesson. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next time. Bye everyone!